The match has finished Crystal Palace 0, West Ham United 2. And this is a review of the game. I'm not going to pretend it was pretty. For a lot of that game, it was ugly. But before I should probably say, well, if you're watching this now and you're in the UK, you probably don't need me to tell you, it has been hammering it down. If you switch on the news, there's been storms everywhere, rain, torrential rain. It's been like a monsoon, and it's not always easy to pick that up when you're watching a game on the TV. Well, I'll tell you what, it was torrential stuff. It were horrible, horrible conditions at Selhurst Park. So I'm going to give a lot of the players a little bit of a pass, which is actually funny enough. One thing a lot of them couldn't do, because they were tough conditions in which to pass the ball. So I just want to give that in mitigation, because it was quite ugly, and for large parts of the game, West Ham couldn't pass the ball. But that's okay. Don't need to pass the ball when you're going to hoof it long, and that's what we did. For large periods of this game, West Ham hoofed it long. I seem to encounter quite a few disagreements. Nothing nasty, but footballing disagreements during the week where I said that I thought Thomas Soucek had been really effective in the role that he'd been asked to play. I didn't particularly like that we're doing it. I think it leaves us with big gaps in midfield. But if you put aside your own personal opinion, once you recognise that Thomas Soucek's being asked to be a battering ram, basically, then you assess, has he done the battering ram role? Not like the double pivot or the low block or any of this stuff. That's the new term, the battering ram role. Once you admit that he's doing that, then you have to assess whether he's being effective at it. And I thought he was very effective at it. I thought he was West Ham's best attacker against Aston Villa. And he possibly was again today. Well, look, I mean, he scored a goal at the end of it. But up until the point where we scored the goal, it was ugly. It really was. It was not a nice performance at all. But you know what? That's okay. Crystal Palace, particularly at Selhurst Park, they've been really good against us over recent years, and they're definitely trying to build something at that club. So actually, to get the win at a venue where teams are going to go and lose this season, I think was quite gratifying, certainly. I think it's tough, really, to say that we, over the course of the game and in terms of chances, that we deserve to win. But actually, in terms of being clinical, we did, because that was really the difference between the two teams. West Ham were clinical and Crystal Palace weren't. And I feel, certainly for me, watching it, I feel that the game hinged on the introduction of Wan Bissaka, it had to be said. That's when the game changed. Absolutely it did. Up until that point, Vladimir Soucek had been awful. And it pains me to say that. I'm not sitting here laughing about it, digging him out. He can't play the system. I think I still, in my mind, am trying to figure out what the system is. It's a little bit weird, truth be known. We appear to have no midfield at times. Once Alvarez came on and sat alongside Rodriguez, we had a midfield. But up to that point, we didn't really have one. It's because Rodriguez is sitting there doing his best to firefight. Soucek's up, basically, up front. And Paqueta's on walkabout. Sometimes he'll drop into midfield, but sometimes he'll go and disappear somewhere else. So I find the tactics of the midfield a little bit weird. We seem to hoof it long quite a lot, but then ask our centre-backs to sort of come out of defence and do some dribbling. It's weird. We were asking people to do weird things in different positions. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that yet. But what I do know is it doesn't suit Vladimir Soucek at all. And I think it's because he's tucked in. I think he's a little bit narrow. And I think he's been asked to do things that he's just not capable of doing. And there was a complete turnaround, a complete metamorphosis when Wan Bissaka came on. And, well, he helped set up the goal, set up the first goal, which was turned home by Thomas Soucek, actually. Before we get to that, I think it's also worth saying that I think it's really good for West Ham to keep a clean sheet. I guess that's what you've got to fix first. It's boring, yeah, but it makes sense. We conceded, 73, 74 goals last season? That was a record in the Premier League. And people look at the Premier League like it's a recent thing. The Premier League's probably been going for 25, 30 years now, whatever it is. It's a long time, right? I mean, it's like a third of a century or whatever. In all that time, the most goals we ever conceded was last season. That's a problem. It's a big issue. So we got to fix that first. So I think it was really, really good for us to get a clean sheet. We had our squeaky bum moments. Mavropanos on a couple of occasions Made me a little bit nervous, particularly early on. He made a mistake which surrendered an early corner, and you don't want to concede corners, but we handled the corners quite well. Eze hit the bar with a really, really good shot, actually, which we wouldn't have been able to do anything about. And they fluffed their lines on another good chance. But by and large, the defence did well. And in particular, just so this video doesn't last too long, we'll go into a few more details about some of the other stuff in tomorrow's video, certainly. But it was Max Kilman. Max Kilman was excellent today. And I'm really interested, because as I record this, after the game, Gio goes live over on the main channel, and I record this recorded video. I then edit it and do all the stuff and then upload it. But as I'm recording this, it's straight after the game. Be interested to hear what Gio says about it, and I will discuss it in more detail over on our Patreon player ratings over on Monday. But I thought Kilman was just outstanding. And I thought he was outstanding before he set up Jarrod Bowen's goal. Dominant in the air, really good on the ground, seems to have good recovery pace. Once he gets into his stride, he's quick. Passes the ball well off both feet, good long range passing, and impressive when he dribbles the ball into midfield. Impressive. I mean, he used to play a football de salo, or what do they call it? A football, whatever they call it. The Brazilian game with a small weighted football. Played for England at that, and it shows he's got some techers. He's got some close ball control for a big fella, for a centre back. And the way he strode out of defence to set up Jarrod Bowen for West Ham's second was impressive indeed. There's a lot of positives to take from the end of that game. There are negatives in the game. There's no mistake about that. Up to half time, I was a little concerned. I wasn't, as I mentioned, I wasn't sure what we were doing. I think I could see what the tactics were in terms of long ball stuff and not having any midfield. I just didn't agree with them. I wasn't sure why we were doing it, but I could see what we were doing. I mean, in the end, ultimately, you have to conclude that it worked. Because we did keep them relatively quiet. It was roughly even, Stevens. It was up to the point where we made the substitutions. I think we'd had 8 shots and Palace had 9. It was something like that. It was a roughly even game. But yeah, you made the substitutions and it won the game. So from that, you think, okay, brilliant, success, great. Before that, it was a worry. And anyone that was anyone that was sat there absolutely convinced we were going to win that game had far more belief in what was going on than I did. I was worried that Bowen wasn't involved in the game. I was very worried that Mohamed Kudus was going to get frustrated on that left-hand side. I guess I still am. He doesn't want to be in that position. That blunts him. It really blunts him. He's a magic player and he's a fantastic player. He really is. But I think, in many respects, we have to try and get him more involved in the game. I think the weather conditions, under normal circumstances, the weather conditions would suggest actually probably wise to go long. Probably wise. But I'm not sure we just did it because of the weather conditions. I think that's the way we're going to play, and I think it is going to be really ugly at some times. I was watching it and thinking it was like Lopetegui, it's like Sam Allardyce with charm. But it worked, and it was effective, and that is a really good result against Crystal Palace. A really good result. And he did change things around. The introduction of Wan Bissaka, Obi-Wan, we got full Obi-Wan now, was wonderful. I mean, his first touch, he sort of sidestepped somebody on the wing, and then he went and lost the ball. It was really his second impact in the game, which was really impressive. Took the ball out of defence. Really impressive. If you haven't watched the game, go and watch the highlights. It'll do far better than me describing it. But basically, he skipped down the right-hand side, went on a dribble, went on a mazy run, played the sort of ball inside to Bowen, which Kudus just doesn't do. It was a simple pass, but it was the right pass. It was decision-making as much as skill. The dribble was skill, then it was the decision-making. It was an impressive introduction. It really was. Bowen was then involved. The ball got worked into the middle. Fulkrug tried to sort of shift the ball between his feet. It was a little bit stuck under his feet. He tried to shift the ball from between his feet. Tried to have a shot, but the ball was sort of cleared, and the ball was cleared to Thomas Soucek. Thomas Soucek side-footed it home really impressively. Really impressively. He's clinical. He's clinical in the box. Clearly, Lopetegui's seen that, and he wants to get him in the box. He won the penalty for our goal against Aston Villa, and he scored a goal today. And I have to say, I fancied him for it. Well, I said it in the preview and in the build-up show. I fancied him to score a goal. It's just not pretty. That's the thing. But he's going to continue scoring goals for West Ham, and it is remarkable. It is remarkable, as I've mentioned on numerous occasions. He's never going to be Pirlo, but or Kevin De Bruyne. But that was impressive stuff. It really, really was. And I think if you've not seen it, they ran towards the away fans. They were singing really well. The away fans were making loads of noise. It was brilliant. I was very jealous, actually, I wasn't there. And as he ran over to the away fans, everyone sort of rushed down. The fans rushed down to sort of celebrate. And as that happened, they had the advertising hoardings there, which are sort of basically big digital screens, aren't they? And one of them fell over a ball boy, a kid. And the advertising hoardings were on top of the kid. And then basically all the crowd were on top of him. I mean, you know, I'm not saying he was going to get crushed to death, but he was getting hurt and it was uncomfortable. Rather than celebrate, Soucek basically lifted the hoardings up and enabled him to get out. Didn't carry on celebrating, was checking that the kid was all right. Was a nice. He's a good guy, you know. He's a good guy, and you want good people to do well. I was really pleased. I was also really pleased when he got substituted because I just thought it showed a really, really good attitude. He thought, you know what, he's done his job. It was really, really good. Excellent, really. It was Alvarez that came on for him, which was good to see Alvarez. That was the 77th. Just checking 77th minute that happened. Absolutely brilliant. The second goal I've already described because it was Max Kilman steaming out from the centre-back position, dribbling through, carrying the ball, played in. Jarrod Bowen for really, really good, really good pass, and Jarrod Bowen cut inside and scored. By that point, Jarrod Bowen's, because he was involved in the first goal, he scored the second goal, and then actually he set up Fulkrug for a shot quite late on in the second half, which it was a good shot. It was a good shot. Didn't overly trouble the goalkeeper, but it was good stuff. Really, really good stuff. The other positive things that I was really pleased to see was with the corners. We seemed to mix the corners up. There was a real tendency last season, Ward-Prowse taking corners only to hit the front post. So there seemed to be a couple of different things happening. And I have to say, we were quite unlucky. Antonio was quite unlucky not to score early on in the game with a set-piece routine. Was Thomas Soucek flicking the ball on. He's a menace. I said it after the Villa game. He's a menace, Soucek. And I think if you've got someone like that in your team, the temptation must be absolutely wicked to play him, because the mayhem he's going to cause. As I say, look, Kudus wasn't great. I don't think the position helps him. Paqueta wasn't great, but I don't think it was. I know it's 2 games where he's not been great, but remember, he created the goal and scored the penalty in the first game, right? So whilst he overall didn't have a great game, I do feel in this one it was going to be very, very hard for someone like that, because the ball was wet and slippery. The pitch was waterlogged. One thing that I did think happened when Alvarez came on and he played, him and Rodriguez sat in front of the back four. It closed down Wharton, which was really good because he'd caused some problems throughout the game. I'm absolutely delighted. That takes a lot of the pressure off West Ham. Man City, it's got the Carabao Cup, but Man City next up in the league. And you didn't want to be going into that really with no points. But honestly, I would have been, as I said, I was pretty chilled on it, really. I think I'm just sort of acclimatising to what the football's going to be like under Lopetegui here. But the tough, as I mentioned, the toughest job is sorting out that defence, and by and large, we did that. And it's just going to be interesting to see where he goes from here. I do think it's going to be difficult for Soufal to get back into the team, like the first team, the starting 11. Maybe he'll start in the Carabao Cup or something. But in the Premier League, I do think was the sort of right back display from Wan Bissaka when he came on, which we're just not used to seeing. We're not used to seeing it. That's for sure. Not in recent times at West Ham anyway. So I think he's gonna once he gets in, and then he's here to stay. But anyway, there you go. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I'm really chuffed, really buzzing. I was looking forward to the game. Ironically, for most of that game, I didn't enjoy it. It was quite frustrating drenched, waterlogged, long ball game to watch. But you know what? If we get a victory, I don't care. And you know, there were exciting moments. Absolutely, there were exciting moments. And I think I'd have been a lot more worried had Bowen not got into the game at the end. But for him to score is really important. Really, really important. I didn't get to see Jimmy Somerville. Unfortunately, that's Somerville, by the way. Jimmy Somerville. I didn't get to see him, but that's fine. West Ham won. I'm sure he'll get a start against Bournemouth. Happy days. I'm happy. I'm a happy hammer.